This is the last topic that I wanted to talk about before we go into some complaints. Although I feel like we've been complaining already about the DRS and
Yeah,
about the runoff areas,
that
so
was
we
my
can
big
kind
complaint
of.
for the week. Yeah.
Okay. So the one thing I wanted to talk about that I don't know if it falls into complaints or not, but maybe something that needs to be taken a look at is the bouncing from the cars, especially from the Mercedes. And I already know that we talk about Mercedes like a little bit before, but in this case, I feel like it's really dangerous.
Mhm.
George Russell is saying that this race is like the most pain he's ever been with in a Formula One car. He's the bouncing just puts too much like pressure on his chest, and it hurts.
Yeah,
Uh, and I'm like that just can't be a thing, you know?
yeah,
It's like I know that the guys are racing car drivers. They have multi-million dollar contracts and they have to produce the results. So
hmm
therefore they're gonna risk their lives to try to do that. And I feel like, hey, that's something that we evolved out of Formula One. It's like, hey, let's try not to think about drivers having like their life being like
in danger
at
like that.
risk,
Yeah. Hmm.
you know, because they want to get the best result possible. I just want to know if you have any thoughts about that, because I don't
No,
know if Formula One should do something about it.
I've thought
Uh,
about it, and I think they should do something about it. I mean, I don't know what they can do, but like it is, to me, it looks very very unsafe. Like I just think of the driver like bouncing like that. So at the beginning of the season, they were showing the camera of like when like the drivers are like facing, or like
yeah,
it's facing the driver, right? And you will see like
yeah,
the purposing, and it was I think they stopped showing it because of how bad it actually looked. Because like
yeah.
you would
I
see
remember seeing Pierre Gasly
Gasly
going.
look going like this, and it's like his head looked like it was about to explode, and it's like there is no way that if you show that to a physician, that the physician is going to tell you that that's like an okay way in which a human body should move 57 laps on a race, like
Yeah,
it's I feel like it's too intense, and I do think it probably is shaking like the insides of the drivers, like like your brain might be like vibrating inside as well. That cannot be
yeah,
good for you. That
yeah,
I, and I think they should really start thinking about the health of the drivers in this, because it's really pronounced. It's like a really evidently strong effect. Like everything's shaking. It cannot be healthy, and I think
yes,
they something should be done. I don't know why. I don't know if you need
yeah.
to
There,
suspend the cars or like
yeah. So just to go into like some history about like I think something that has happened in the past that is similar to this, not the same, but similar. I think it was on Formula Card. I don't know if, or what it was called, like what now we know as IndyCar, but what many years ago was known as a Formula Card or whatever it was even before that. But in the US, there was a track, I believe it was in Las Vegas. And obviously it's an oval when like they race in the United States, like mainly.
yeah.
And in there was a particular track in Las Vegas where the oval was more of like a rectangle
Okay.
rather than like a
Like an actual
circle.
oval. Mhm.
Yeah, like an actual oval. And the way that the rectangle is set, the angle was too sharp, but the drivers would be incentivized, obviously, because you
As
need to
fast as you
win,
can.
you
Yeah.
need to be go as fast as you can to take that turn as fast as they can. And obviously, if you turn left, your body wants to go right, and the drivers kept being pulled like, and the G's were constantly on the 6 G's on every single turn, so
Yeesh.
like
Yeah.
you're there. I think it's like 200 laps that like you have to do on like that oval or rectangle. And what ended up happening is that that track became known for like killing drivers, because what ends up happening is that as they are turning for over an extended period of time, the blood from the brain of the drivers is being pulled out, and like
Yeesh.
they're passing out while driving, crashing onto the wall and killing themselves.
Yeesh.
And I'm like, I know that. I mean, it's very graphic, and obviously you don't get to see the blood being pulled out of the like it's happening inside their helmets and inside their skull. But I'm like, this kind of gives me
Yeah.
like some flashbacks of that. It's like it was a Las Vegas track, so anybody that wants to fucking go look at that example, it's like I mean, I feel like it's kind of like that, but now in modern times, that we're like, hey, we're bouncing and we're kind of dismissing it a little bit
Yeah.
because it's not every single team, and we want to make it like, hey, some other teams were able to deal with it. Now, like, why should we like change the rules? So, and I'm like,
Yeah.
well,
But you can't allow so for example, like 2 years ago in 2020, when they decided to suspend the season for somebody having COVID at track, I was like, oh man, that seems like a really strong overreaction. For like one race, somebody in McLaren's got it, then they were like, okay, we can't race McLaren, and then everybody just canceled the
oh, I
thing.
think that was in Australia, wasn't it? In
Yeah,
Australia,
yeah, it was
that
about to.
there was one person with COVID, and then they canceled the whole event.
Yeah, and then eventually the whole season too, or like suspended it for like at least a few months.
Yeah.
At first I thought it was an overreaction, but then afterwards I was like, it was probably the right thing. I mean, you're saving the driver's lives. And I feel like it's kind of a similar thing here, where it's like nobody wants to end the party. Nobody wants to ruin the fun and be like, let's think about the drivers. But there is a real, you could be fucking up those drivers in the future. Like you could be doing
Yep.
some internal damage to those drivers, including Hamilton, Russell, and the Ferrari drivers. That is like, geez, like is it worth trying to do that this year, or is it better to maybe like put a hole in it, revert back some regulations, and say like, maybe you can use a different type of wings or something.
Or
uh
maybe like, hey, the minimum ride height for the cars needs to be like not so low, like just make it higher. So like nobody runs the risk of running the car so low, then the car begins bouncing, right? Because it's also like a thing for the car rides.
or even impose something that says, especially now that Ferrari are losing terrain and like the Red Bulls are gonna pass them, I assume at some point. Just say like, if your car is driving that much, you cannot drive. Figure out a way to fix it. You need to fix it, but you need
Yeah,
to make sure that car is not bouncing like that, because that is hurting the drivers. And I think it actually is hurting the drivers.
it puts a lot of pressure on the teams into like, hey,
Like
you need
we need to
to,
fucking fix this. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I think those are valid points. I don't think there's a perfect solution, and it's also a
Yeah.
thing that like it's not anybody's fault, because these are things that uh, nobody predicted that this could have happened. Like nobody talked about this effect, like the porpoising being a thing that would be an issue in Formula One,
Yeah.
and that's mainly the last time we saw the ground effect cars was like in the 70s, I believe, or beginning of the 80s. I don't remember when it was completely banned or rolled out of Formula One, but I know it was in the 70s that ground effect cars existed. And it was an issue back then that porpoising would occur.
Mhm.
But I don't know if that was like a thing that because it was so short lived and it was eventually banned that we forgot about it and people completely forgot about it. I didn't even know it was a thing.
Yeah.
And
I
then
didn't
like,
I didn't know either.
yeah, and that's because also in the wind tunnel, the air and the way that the cars are like being tested,
Uh-huh.
you're not really going at 300 like kilometers an hour.
Right.
Like it's just wind being thrown at the
The car, you
model
see
that you
you see
have
how
there.
it
Yeah,
goes
and you see
over and
how the
over.
wind goes. So you cannot predict that the car will begin bouncing the way that it does. So nobody predicted this as a thing, and then when everybody saw it in testing, it's like, oh my god, this is crazy. Like, is this for
Yeah.
real? And like teams have learned like how to deal with it and how to manage it. But it's coming to a point like I'm the Ferrari drivers. Like I know that you see like, oh, but Ferrari is working fine for them, and I'm like, they're still bouncing. And just because the car is still it's not about the cars going fast or slow. It's
Mhm.
about the bouncing and the damage that it causes to the drivers. So
Yes.
like, yeah, I know that the Ferrari uh, drivers are still getting like results and it looks like the car is really fast even though that there's bouncing. Like I'm
Yeah.
not denying that. I'm not saying that just because it bounces it's making the car slower. I'm saying that like because it's bouncing, this could potentially be harming the driver's health.
Yeah,
So
I think I think later in the season I feel like you could start seeing drivers with like concussion like symptoms after like races because of
Yes.
like being like totally like bouncing like the entire like your head is not supposed to bounce like that. You're like your body's not supposed to be in a constant state of like bouncing. It's not good for you. It's just
Yeah.
not. So
I mean, the drivers are already going through
like so many forces.
like 5G, 6Gs,
Yes.
like every lap. Obviously, it's not like an extended period of time that they're going like during these forces, but they're already like going through this. And now on top of that, going through the bouncing up and down, like George Russell was saying, like, oh, I did some vertical training, and I'm like, what is vertical training?
Yeah.
Like what is your fucking brain putting on a blender? And I'm like, no, like what are you doing?
Right. And
Like
it's also you can't like I assume what that he's doing is like maybe like doing muscles to like up and down or something like that to like maybe keep use
like
more
to
of your
stabilize
body.
his body,
Yeah.
yeah, to stabilize the head. But like I mean, as much as he gets his muscles really strong, like we're human beings. Like there's no way that
Yeah, you can control that. It looks so much like it's like it really looks like your head's popping off as like you like it's violent,
yeah,
honestly.
I mean, people may feel like, oh, but they have a helmet and all that, but the helmet, I don't think helps. I mean, it helps a little bit,
Yeah,
but still, your brain doesn't have a helmet. Like
right.
your head has a helmet,
Your
but
brain is like
the brain is still just
it's like
there.
bouncing inside. It's like it's gotta be
Yeah,
moving inside.
yeah, the brain is still shaking inside and hitting your skull. So that's what we're saying. Like there could be concussion-like symptoms
Mhm.
after a race, and if not, like internal organs. Like I don't know what like this whole thing has happened. Like I feel like they should do something about it. I don't know what Mercedes is planning to do, or if they're gonna complain. I don't think they have complained about that. I feel
Yeah.
like the pressure should also come from the drivers. Some drivers should just be like, I'm not driving if that thing keeps bouncing. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
at what point do you like take your health as a priority over the,
Yes.
you
And
know?
again, I think it's gonna take maybe like I don't know,
I think until
maybe
like halfway through the season or something.
yeah. Or well, the thing is that it's gonna
I
take
think
like
it's gonna take until a driver passes out.
exactly. That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
say. Like until somebody like passes out or something because of the bouncing, and then then they're gonna start taking it seriously. Like oh crap, we didn't know it was that bad. But like it looked really bad. It really is just kind of. I think there's kind of a waiting period to see like when it's gonna be fixed. But yeah, I don't know. Now it's gonna like we're in the fourth race already, and it's like a month and a half in or something. Like that should be that should have already been taken care of.
Yeah, like nobody's talking about. I mean, people are talking about the porpoising and the Mercedes doing like bouncing like that,
Mhm.
but nobody's talking about like the driver's health. Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
so so I feel like I don't know. At some point, it should be talked about and addressed.
Discuss, yeah.